Hi everyone, welcome back to Vauxhall Junction here at the Class 47 Peter YouTube channel, and in today's video we're going to be continuing on with the refurbishment of the station, and today's video is going to be focusing on the canopies. So here's one of the original canopies, which these are the Pico ones, and these are kits when you buy them. Now I have to be honest that these ones, although they are okay, they are crude. I mean, as you can see at the top there is some damage, and also because when you get the kit it makes up two, so basically it forms onto one platform. But because I used them, both of them, for two separate canopies on the platforms, it meant that for the rear of the canopies we cut out these pieces of cardboard shaped to look like the ends of the canopies and then glued them in place, which isn't really all that good. And also the canopies, they don't entirely stand up straight, especially with the legs. I mean, you do get multiple of these legs, but I only use the 4 of them. And also a lot of dust formed on the top of these canopies as well. I have to keep brushing them off. So I figured, if I'm going to redo the platforms, have them refurbished and get them looking much better, I figured why not get new canopies as well. So that's what I've done. So these original canopies are not going to be used on the station now, because I've got some new canopies to use instead. So this is where this package comes in, which contains the new canopies for the station, which I'll just get them out of the packet now. And as you can see, the canopies I have here are made by John's Model Railways. Now the reason I've bought these canopies is because they're the cheapest. Because other manufacturers like Metcalfe that make the kits, they cost around 14 quid. So to get the amount of canopies I'd need for my station, it would cost quite a bit. Whereas these only costed around £9.90, so in total this only cost me 38 quid. But also the length of the canopies as well. I found with one pack, the length of these canopies was more than enough to almost actually do the one station platform I have. So I only needed to buy 4 packs of these. And also these kits are easy to put together as well, and quite simple to do. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to cut the canopies out. It does recommend to score them first before cutting them out, but I'm going to find it's easier to cut them out first and then score them. So I've got my scissors here, and so I'm going to just cut them out. I'm not going to cut them out fully though, because if I do it this way, it means I can still see that line there, so it shows you where to cut it. Okay, so those have now been cut out. So now I'm going to do the scoring. So I've got this metal ruler here, and I'm using this. So that way I can, when I score it, I'll get a nice straight line. and it recommends to use a blunt dinner knife to do this, to score it. So that's what I got here. this one will be blunt enough. So let's see if this has worked. Nope, not quite. So we've scored that line now. So now I'll just finish cutting out the canopy, which I'll do that off camera. Right, so the first canopy has been cut out and is now being scored and folded. I will admit, to do this I had to use the scalpel in order to get this to bend. But it doesn't matter because it meant to have used the blunt dinner knife to simply score the line down and then use that as a reference. So just simply using the scalpel to score down that line, which has eventually bent it into shape. So what I've got to do next, I've got to cut out these bits here to fit the skylights in. Okay, so these bits have now been cut out, and as you saw, I used the standing knife to do that. So these bits now cut out, we now have to fix the skylights in place. So we have the skylights here, as you can see, which are sellotaped onto this sheet of A4 paper. And so there's the canopy. So I'll turn that upside down, and the glue I'm going to use for this is Yoo-hoo. You do have to be careful because it's stringy, but if you're careful then you shouldn't have that problem. Okay, so we need 4 of these skylights. So I'm just going to take out these 4. And they can be put to one side because we're not going to need the others yet. Okay, so in the instructions it says they should be glued in from the inside. Like so. So we only need a very small amount of this stuff. Already we're getting a big blob coming out already. And if you get a little bit of excess, just wipe it off. Okie doke. And even if you do get any strings, just simply pull them off. And you simply push them into place. Like so. So there you are, so there's the first skylight now in place. Okay, so all the skylights have now been fitted, as you can see. And I'm well happy with how this is looking so far. So all I've got to do now is to finish this canopy off. And then I'll start on the others, but I'll do the others off camera. Because otherwise you might get a bit bored after a while if you see me doing every single canopy on screen. So something I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the bottoms of the canopies. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this just so that I'll get rid of this, the look of the cardboard basically underneath them, to get rid of that to make them look a bit nicer. And so the paint I'm going to be using is Humbrol Matte 66. So I'm just going to get the lid off the paint. Then once we've mixed the paint up with the brush, I'm then going to gently paint the bottom of the canopy. I probably should have painted this before sticking the skylights in place, to be honest, but oh well, doesn't matter. As long as I'm careful, then I should be okay with this. Okay, so the underneath of the canopy has now been painted. I have also painted the sides of the canopy as well. Now, one thing I did do wrong involved the skylights. I glued them on this way round underneath, which was wrong because this is how they should have been glued in place, with these bits, as you can see, as I show here, on top of the roof, whilst the bits there underneath it. So I did that wrong, so I had to pull them off and then re-glue them back in place, but never mind, we live and learn. So the first canopy is now done, or the roof is anyway. So now I've got to move on to the other roofs, which once I cut them out and then once I folded them to get the fold on them, I'll then be painting them all before then add the skylights, which I think that'll make things much easier, to be honest. So I'll see you in a bit. So all the canopy roofs have now been finished, and I'm really happy and satisfied with how these have turned out. They were easy to do. These have taken a few days to do, but that's totally fine because I didn't want to rush them, because if I did, I'd just make a mess of them. So I'm really pleased with these. You also get these extra bits as well to fit onto the canopies, should you so wish. They are optional. I won't be fitting them on, I'm going to be leaving the canopies as they are. So now I'm going to turn my attention to the columns, which there are 24 of them here, and I'm going to be painting these into my own colour scheme, which is something you can do with these columns if you wish. You don't have to, you can leave them as the colours they are, but I'm going to be painting them into my own colour. And I have got a colour scheme in mind to paint them in. So these are the paints I'm going to use to paint the columns. We have Humbrol 15 Midnight Blue, which is gloss, which that'll look very nice. And also we've got Revel White 36105, which is matte. I don't think it'll make too much difference, the blue being gloss and the white being matte, but they will make very nice colours on the columns, I think. Okay, so the columns have now been painted. They've all been painted white. I've got some more here in a tub. I've been painting them several at a time, which is why these ones, I've got them here on the table, stood in blue tack. These are now done, so I don't need to use the white paint anymore, because now the next thing to do is to paint the blue on them. Okay, so I've painted the blue on the canopy columns. The blue I've used is, as I mentioned earlier, it's Humbrol 15 Midnight Blue, which is gloss, so it does give a very nice gloss effect on them, which does look really, really nice. There's several others I've done as well. So there's just several more to go before these columns will be finished. These are just 2 of them that are now done. So I'm going to show you how I've done the others on camera. Okay, so with painting the blue around the station columns, what I do is I take one of the ones that I've already painted, then I take one that I've not painted, and then I put them together. Because then what I do then is I draw some lines up to where I've painted them on the other column. Now this might not be the correct way to do it, but that's how I do it. And then what I do then is I just basically draw on the lines where I'm going to paint the blue paint, if that makes sense. So there you go. So that's one of them done. So then, once I've drawn on the lines, I then paint on the blue paint. So cue the sped up footage. Okay, so that has now been painted. If you do make a little mistake, but gone over the line slightly, it doesn't matter, because you can touch that up later. So that's one of them done. Now we're going to do all the rest of them. Okay, so all the columns for the canopies are now finished, and I'm quite pleased with how these have turned out. So I've got them all in this tub here. Now some of these have had to have more than one coat on both the white and the blue. Others have had to have touch-ups, but that's something you have to do. So these are now ready to go onto the platforms. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So the station is now on the finishing straight. So let's get these added to the platforms. Okay, so here are at the garage, down by the station. And so I'm going to be fitting the columns in place. Now, there are already holes here to fit the standard Hornby canopies in, but these holes are a bit too small to fit these in. So they are going to have to be opened up. And I'm going to use that using this drill. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So there we are, that one fits in place. So now I've just got to do the others. I had to use, this is the drill that I've used. So once I've opened the hole up, I've then just simply twisted that round in place. So we're going to do all the others now. Okay, so the first platform now has its new canopies. And I must say, I think these look so much better than the last ones. And I'm really pleased with how these are looking on this platform. So now I'm showing you the canopies from the other side. And as I say, I'm really happy with these. Now there have been some slight changes. Because originally I had fixed the one column about round here. And as I started fitting them along, I noticed that this one platform here wouldn't have been able to have accommodated these three canopies, which was a bit of a problem. I couldn't remove the waiting room because it's glued on firmly on the end of the platform. So what I did instead was I moved the columns up to about where the footbridge is. And in doing so, that's allowed me to have three canopies on that platform, and that does look really good. And each platform, well, each canopy roof has three columns holding it up. I didn't want to go too crazy with the columns, if I'm honest, and because it is something entirely fictional, it doesn't have to be real. And also that gives me space to add other details as well, such as benches, people, other things as well, such as these toilets as well. So otherwise, if I start adding more columns on, it might compromise that, which I don't want it to do. So that's the one platform finished. Now I've just got to do the others, but I'll be doing these off camera. And also I have actually been filling the holes in as well on the platforms, these little holes here. I've been using little blobs of plasticine and then very lightly spraying over the top with the grey primer. But I will also be adding a few bits of details over those as well, to obscure them a bit more. But in doing so, that's got rid of the holes at least. So that's the first platform with the new canopies on. So now I've got to turn my attention to the others. So all the station platforms now have the canopies. All the canopies are now done, which is just satisfying to see on the platforms now. Also, the roofs of these canopies, they're not fixed in place, they are loosely in place, as you can see. That's meant so I can get to the details easier to add them onto the platforms. I will fix them firmly in place later on. I am thinking about fitting some lighting under the canopies, but that's going to be something for the future. Now when it came to doing the canopies on platform 2 and 3, which is this platform here, I didn't have to drill any new holes into the platform, because with platform 1 just here I had to fill in the holes that were already there and drill some new ones in place. I didn't have to do that with platform 2 and 3. So these ones, the canopies just simply went into the holes. The holes had to be made a little bit bigger, but other than that, the holes were already there. I didn't have to drill any new holes in place, which was good. It's the same story with platform 4 over there. I think 1 or 2 new holes had to be drilled in place, but other than that, all the other holes that were already there, the columns just simply slotted into the holes. So the canopies have now all been added onto the station platforms. So now I'm going to be showing you all the details that I've added to the platforms. So I'm going to show you platform 4 first. So I'll just take off the canopy. So we've got fencing on the back there, on the platforms, which is a scale model scenery kit. I've also added a grip bin. We have some benches on the platforms. These are Metcalf kits, and I've also added some figures on the benches, and I've done it in a way so that basically the figures on the platforms, it's little scenarios that basically tell stories. So here you have a granny sitting on a bench and there's a guy next to her reading the newspaper. So you could argue that he's travelling with his granny somewhere, and while she's nattering away, he's just simply not listening and he's reading his newspaper. And then you've got a station staff there who's come up to see what's going on. And then you've got 2 passengers there, sitting on the bench, waiting to catch the next train. So I'll put the canopy back on. Then we'll take this one off. So again, you've got some more scale model scenery. Fencing in the back there, we have a toilet, and there's a guy there who's just walked out of it. And we've got a guard there who's about to see this train off. And we have another bench here, again, a Metcalf kit. And there's a guy there sat on the bench, and there's a newspaper on the bench. So he's read the paper and he's put the paper down beside him. And that newspaper there, that's a scale model scenery newspaper that you get in the pack of litter that they do. So now I'm going to show you the details that I've added onto platforms 2 and 3, which is this platform here. So I'll just take off the canopy. So I've added a grip bin there by the waiting room and a gentleman there, and I've placed him there so it looks like he's walking up to the help point there on the waiting room. I've added a scale model scenery bin there by that column. Again, I've also added benches which are made from Metcalf kits. On this bench here we have 3 ladies waiting, and they're waiting to catch the next train because they're going on a ladies' day out. On this bench here we have a train spotter who's writing down the numbers of the trains he saw in the book that day, and sat next to him on the same bench there's a guy who's waiting to catch his next train, and he's eyeing up the vending machine, having a look to see what he's going to treat himself to. We've also got 2 train spotters as well on the platform. I've glued them so you've got one looking that way and the other one looking over there, if you get what I mean. And these train spotters, they are the Batman Scenecraft ones. You've got one there with his notebook ready to write down the number of the next train passing, and you've got that one there with his camera. Then over here we have these trolleys there. These are the Batman Scenecraft ones. And so this one here, as you can see, is full of parcels, as you can see. And these are the Pico ones, and I've added some labels on them. And so there's a lot of parcels there. And you've also got some mailbags there, which are the model scene ones. And you've also got a guard there who's waiting to see the next train in to send it on its way. And so I love the detailing particularly of that, how I've filled it up with parcels, and also a stacked one there, so it looks like they've just placed it there because there's no room for it. Again, there's another scale model scenery bin, and there's another bench, and on that bench you've got a train spotter with his camera in his hands waiting to photograph the next train that comes through the station. And sat next to him you've got a salesman there who is waiting to catch his next train on his way to a very important meeting, but he's decided to make a sales pitch, and so he's pitching some ideas to the train spotter, showing him his latest products because he has his pocket open, and could be that he's showing off some new products he has inside his waistcoat, but obviously the train spotter's not interested in that, so he's not paying any attention to him. But of course the salesman doesn't realise that because he's in his own stride now, so he doesn't realise that he's not interested. Now over on the other side of the platform, on platform 3, you have a bloke there who's sat on the other side of the bench, on where those 2 people are, and he's got the bench all to himself, and next to him on the bench there's an empty Coke can, as you can see. So it could be that he went to the vending machine, bought himself a can of Coke, but instead of putting it in the bin, he's placed the empty can on the bench. Then over on that platform we have a guard who's about to see this Class 158 off, which is waiting to leave for its next service. So now we come on to platform 1, and a lot of detail has been added on this platform. So over by the waiting room we have a woman who's gone up to the help point to ask about the information when the next train is going to arrive. And I've also added a grip bin as well. Now the benches on this platform are not Metcalf kit ones, these are some plastic ones that I already had. I bought the Metcalf kit ones because I needed more benches for the platforms. So on this platform over here we have a couple of passengers who are waiting for their next train. I've added a toilet, and there's a woman who's gone up to the door and she's about to go inside to use the toilet. We have some more passengers sitting on the bench, waiting for the next train to arrive. Then we have the e-motion photographer. I've done a video on this before, and this does work. If I just flick a switch, and you can see the camera flashes. This is not a bit of detail I've added recently, because he was already on the platform before, but I thought I'd show him to you again. And so that's a nice bit of detail to have, and a nice bit of animation, and that flash looks like he's taken a photograph of a train entering the station or a train passing through the station. So I do recommend those products from e-motion. Behind him, on the bench, we have 2 more passengers, and we have another scale model scenery bin. Then we have 2 more train spotters. Again, I've glued them into position so they're both looking in different directions. One has his camera and the other one has his notebook ready. I've added a vending machine. We have another bench with some more passengers on and a scale model scenery bin. But what I've done with that one is I've glued a Coke can on top of it and a newspaper that's sticking out of the bin. So it looks like someone's finished with the newspaper, put it in the bin, but there's no room left in the bin, so it's sticking out. And because of that, there's no room in the bin. Someone's just come along and they've placed the Coke can on top of the bin. Then we have more of these luggage trolleys. Again, like the other ones, one is full of the mail bags and the other one is full of parcels. Then we have some more station staff with a guard there blowing his whistle, so it looks like that he's seeing a train off from the station. And we have another station staff member with a trolley, and he's got some newspaper bundles, so it could be that he's going to take away the mail bags and put the newspapers in there. And then just by the footbridge we have one of those little mini station tractors that the station staff used to drive around on. And what I've done is, as well, by the track, I've actually added some litter. So I've added a couple of newspapers there, so it could be that they've blown out of the bin by the wind, or blown out of people's hands and they've blown onto the line side there by the track. And also just there we have a little Coke can as well by the track. I have seen that in real life, cans that have just been left by the track like that, and so that's where I got the idea from. And little details like that, they do make a lot of difference on the layout. And at some stage I am going to be adding some foliage in various places along the edges just there. But that's something to do in the future. So that brings me on to the end of this video. I know it's been a while for part 2 to come along, but I have been busy doing other things, and of course doing the station behind the scenes prior to doing this video. But thank you for watching and hope you've enjoyed it. So as ever, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, and feel free to post a comment below. Check out all my other videos, and I'll see you again next time. Take care for now.